So I graduated with a degree in environmental science, and I saw an advert in the Nottingham Evening Post for a biologist for an environmental science company. So I applied. It was before the era of internet, really, so you couldn't really Google a company or anything. And I went along expecting to be doing soil samples or water monitoring, and I got to the interview, and I'm sat in the interview, and Paul Hoyes, who's still he's retired now, he started asking me about rats and mice, and frantically was recalling, I did a module on housing as part of my degree, and I'm recalling information on rats and mice, and that was it really. I got a job as a biologist with Forward Environmental Services, and I was with them for a few years as a biologist, and then I went to Rentokil to do some residential work because we hadn't done much of that. I was mainly doing high profile sites, and then I got approached by a company in Melton Mowbray called Luxan, which is now part of the Pelsis Group, and I was a product manager and sales marketing coordinator there, and I was with them for over 10 years. The company went through acquisition, and I was made redundant after the acquisition, a couple of years after acquisition, and I went to Barentine, where I was sales and technical, and then I was approached by BSF, and I went there to be country manager for UK Nordics and Baltics, and then I left there 2 years ago to come to Deadline, to sales and products. So 25 years. The plan was, I'd started studying environmental health back in Leeds, and I wanted to go back into environmental health, and at the time the advice from the institute was to do a course conversion once I'd done my environmental science. So I thought, this will be a good stopgap, I'll get some work experience, and then I'll do a course conversion through Derby University, and I never did the course conversion. I loved it too much. It was such a varied job. No day was the same, every day was different. I've been in buildings and visited places I could never have dreamed of. You get to go to places in pest control that other people don't get to go to. They get to go behind the scenes, they get to go in stately homes, and they'll get to go in the attics and the basements, they'll see behind in the servants' quarters. You get to go to national sites, hospitals, museums, temples, cathedrals, theme parks, all sorts of different places where the general public doesn't get to go, and the people you meet are so friendly. And this industry, it is small, but it is incredibly friendly. And considering when I joined there wasn't many females in it, I never felt threatened. I never felt, you're a woman. That didn't exist. It was very much a case of, maybe because of my personality, I just mucked in, I didn't think anything of lying on a roof, doing pigeon work or scraping up shit or anything like that. You just get on with it. And I loved it, and it suited me. When I first started, I was a biologist, but I had to learn the basics. So I did a 6 weeks internal training program where I was working with a trainer, Kevin Gardner, who's at Nottingham Pest Control now, and he trained me up, and then we did our internal assessments, and I was put out on my own in a van. And when you first go out on the van on your own and you take on your round, and it's a bit like, when you first get your driving licence, you go out on your own then and you fly in solo. It was like that, and it was lovely, and I created a lovely rapport with people, and then different jobs come along, and the guys that I worked with were so friendly and so welcoming that if another job came in and when they needed another person, if I was in there I'd help them, and that's how it was. It was very much a family. So yeah, you do pigeon work, you do your normal rats and mice. I was also doing the auditing side of things, so I was going around flour mills and food production sites. I was shooting pigeons in gypsum mines or shopping centres. Very, very varied, and not what people see as pest control, really. Sometimes it might just be putting fly screens on a door or changing tubes in the fly unit. Very, very varied.
again, you've already...
The closeness, the professionalism, and it's an ever-changing industry. Regulatory legislation, it's always changing. You can't stand still. You know, you could leave this industry, and some of my friends they've left to have children, and then they come back 2-3 years later, and it's jumped on, and they're having to reacquaint themselves with what they were doing 3-4 years ago. They wouldn't be able to do now sometimes. Different techniques change, products change, so many things change. I would say to any woman it's perfect. Yes, the initial training, it can be challenging, but you know, you can make it work for you. If you work for yourself or you're working for a manager and you've got children, they will be flexible. You know, I used to often go out, I haven't got children, but I used to often go out on a Saturday morning, because sometimes I had a very good manager and he said, as long as you've got your work done, that's fine. And, you know, if you've got restaurants and stuff, they might not be open in the week, and pubs, they might only be open at a weekend. So it is flexible. I would say for a lot of women, being on the tools and being pregnant don't go hand in hand. So a lot of them do go off and have children, and then they really want to come back working 9 till 3. And a lot of companies are now seeing that, and they're seeing the advantage of that. And they're almost seeing it as when you've got high volume of stuff, so in the summer months when you're getting your wasp treatments and your ant treatments, and you need that extra work, those extra people on the ground, or covering holidays and stuff, that's when women can come in. And the same for fathers that are single parents. It is flexible and it does work like that, but you have to have a management structure to support it. And I think sometimes that needs to move forwards, and a lot of people are very stuck in the ways where you have to be on site for 8 o'clock and you work till 5. But actually, do you? Surely you just work your rounds or your jobs dependent on the availability of the staff. And, you know, there's pest controllers that only work evenings. So if you're in central London and you've got restrictions for parking, you've got restrictions getting into buildings, there's people out there that will only work evenings and at weekends, and they have 2 or 3 days off in the week because that works for them. They can get a security guard, they can go around the whole site, they don't get interrupted by anybody, they can park for free, access in and out the city is easier. And pest management is changing and people are moving with it. You've got those that are really using technology and really thinking differently and outside the box, and they're making it work and they're making a lot of money. And you've got those that are very much still sticking to what they know and what they're comfortable with. So, no, none whatsoever. There's no restrictions at all. I've been up grain silos, I've been up flour silos, full arrest system on, climbing up the outside. I'm not scared of heights. I've got men that are I've known men that are absolutely petrified of heights. Wouldn't even go up a ladder. I'm the one going up the ladder. I've been in floor ductings. Size is probably the restriction. Getting in a loft hatch, and there's big blokes and there's big women.